Hello and welcome. I'm Carol DeChaine, your intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. This whole month I'm looking at releasing fears. It's Halloween month, so I thought, what can I think of? Fear is part of Halloween, and it's looked for there. But sometimes, and most of the time, we don't really want that fear in our lives. It stops us from moving forward. So far, I've looked at releasing the fear of abandonment and figuring out what it is and if it's actually in your life, because it may not be obvious. And another one that's not so obvious is releasing the fear of not being good enough, not being smart enough, just enough, not deserving things because of that. And today I'm going to talk about releasing that fear of failure. And you may not even know you have it, but maybe you just fail, or maybe you stop halfway through a project because you think you're not going to be able to do it. And rather than going all the way to the end and then having to go, yeah, I failed, you feel like you're less than when you fail something. And if you look back on your life, how many times have you failed? Maybe you're a total perfectionist so that you won't fail. I mean, maybe you never have because you work so hard to get where you want to be. You work, and you don't want to have that failure. So that is what drives you forward. And it may not be so bad to have that fear of failure if it motivates you to move forward. But really, we don't need too many fears in our life. They don't do anything but give us angst and worry. But if it gives you motivation, you might go, well, I don't know if I want to get rid of that fear because maybe it's something that feeds you in a good way instead of a negative way. But if you look at your life and you go, do at least be aware if you have that fear of failure. Do I have it? How do I feel? What am I doing? Do I let go of things before I complete them? But maybe projects, maybe people, relationships, love interests. Maybe you let go of children early because you see that they're going down the wrong road. Instead of sticking with them, you go, not my fault. It's not my failure. It's their failure. I do not own it. There, it's on them. So you just don't even stick with them. But sometimes you need to stay on that yellow brick road with people, to allow them to be who they are, but to move with them, to help them when need be. So, how do you feel about failure? Is it something that worries you? Is it something that you go, oh, no, I can't fail. This isn't going to work. I can't fail. If you ever feel that way, look at what it is that you're feeling that fear of failure over. Maybe it's only at work. Maybe you don't have that fear at all with your relationship. You're feeling good. You have a family. Everything's fine. You like where you live. You love the whole family is good. The outer family as well as the actual like your spouse and your kids. Maybe your parents, your siblings, everybody else is great. You have no trouble, and you don't have any fear of not being able to get along with them. Then maybe that fear of failure is only about that job, that next project you're working on, and so you give it so much extra attention that maybe you're at the office more than you need to be. You're at wherever your job is more than you need to be because you want to make sure you do it right. And being a perfectionist isn't necessarily bad as long as you don't do it to the exclusion of being happy. Because then if you fail, you're going to be so hard on yourself. When you do get to that point, you'll be unkind, you'll be hurtful, you'll say things to yourself you wouldn't say to anybody else unless you hated them. And even then you probably wouldn't say it depending on who you are. So when you do fail, look at what you say to yourself. As in, whoop, not doing that part again. That didn't work out so well. That's fine. And look at it and say, what happened? What did I consider went going wrong that I can learn from it so that I do better next time? I mean, you look at Thomas Edison, he didn't get the light bulb on the first try. It was lots and lots, like I don't know how many thousands that it was, but it was a lot before he finally said, Eureka, it works. And so look at these things. I mean, your life is like a giant experiment. Sometimes they do work and sometimes they don't. But if you're afraid of when it doesn't work, you won't learn and grow from it. You'll just want to bury it underneath everything because you won't want to look at it. But if you can look at it in the clear light of day, once you get through any fears and any other things that you're going, okay, this hurt, this didn't work, okay, take those breaths, Work your way through it enough so you can take that step back and see why you failed at what you set out to do. Failed meaning didn't have happened, that it didn't go the way you wanted it to do. Maybe you only slightly failed. Maybe it sort of went sideways, but not completely. What happened? Maybe it went better because you considered it failing, but maybe you failed at your job in a way that you went, oh my God, this is awful. I'm in such trouble. And then another job became available because you weren't holding on to the first job anymore. You hear about it through a friend or something happens and all of a sudden you have a different job and you thrive in that one. But it's because you failed in the first one. You learned from it, but then you had to get another job, perhaps, because maybe they laid you off or fired you, and then you're in the right place where you needed to be. So know that sometimes failure, most of the time, failure is something you can learn from and you can grow from, and you can have a better life because of it, because you've learned and moved forward. So if you can release that fear that you're going to fail, it's just a fear. It's an emotion that you can let go of if you choose to. And it might be really, really deep because maybe they gave you a hard time when you were a kid and it's something that's ingrained in you. So it might be harder to let it go than what some people would find. Maybe you need a therapist or a life coach to let those things go. But sometimes we just can do our own introspection and figure things out and release them on our own, whether through meditation. And I have a bunch of different guided meditations on YouTube that you can look at, or however it is, you can release those fears. And the fear of failure is one that it's easier to let go of sometimes than others because when you see the positives that come from the failures, then you can go, oh, well, I don't want to fail, but if I do, something better is going to come along. And if you can believe that, then you'll be able to go through failure a little more gracefully. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Carol DeChaine, and if you want to know more about me, my life coaching, or Marconic multidimensional energy, by all means, please check out my website at connecttojoy.com. That's connect, the number 2, joy.com, and you'll see that link below the video. And there you'll also be able to listen to my podcast, which is also Connect to Joy, but it's also available on most of the podcast hosting sites, as well as you can follow me on Instagram under the same name, Connect to Joy. By all means, if you like what you hear, do subscribe and click on the bell notification so you know the next time that I post a video here. Until next week, please do know that you are already enough to have that joyful, limitless life that you desire.